The valiant efforts of these incredible women truly transformed the welfare system in Nevada. But where do efforts to provide help to families in need, and especially women and children, stand today? Joining us to talk about that are Maria Tucker, Executive Director of the Jeremiah Program, and Jolena Simpson, Grant and Policy Researcher for Make It Work Nevada. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and start with your wonderful organizations. Both of you doing great work here in Southern Nevada and Nevada. Talk to us about Make It Work Nevada.
Well, Make It Work Nevada is an organization that's been around since 2018 here in Nevada. We were birthed, for lack of a better word, from the national organization. And as we came into Nevada, it was important for us to focus on the needs of women, and especially on the needs of low income and Black women and other women of color who have been battling poverty and dealing with poverty for decades and decades. So what we focus on are the needs of those women and those families.
And what are some of those needs?
Well, absolutely. Childcare is one of those needs. Affordable childcare is often out of reach for families with 2, 3, or even 4 children. Income equality, making sure that they're getting paid their worth and getting paid a living wage and not just minimum wage, right? And healthcare and health needs of families as well. So all of those things for us fall under reproductive justice. And reproductive justice is being able to have a child or have a family if you want one, or if you don't want not to have one. And of course, being able to live and thrive and raise that family in the way that is not only survival, but really an excellence of life.
And I love the work you're doing here. And I also am so excited that you're connecting because Maria, the Jeremiah Program is something that is new to Southern Nevada. You've been around for many years, but new to Southern Nevada. Tell us about your organization and especially that 2-generation approach.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. So we're the Jeremiah Program. We've been in Las Vegas for 6 months. We're in 9 cities across the country, and this is the first in the West. So we're excited to break that kind of ground here. Jeremiah Program disrupts poverty 2 generations at a time. We use education as a lever, especially. We pair mom with a coach, and we do several supports for the 2nd generation, including extended child care, tutoring, summer enrichment programs, just to name a few.
And let's talk about what women, you mentioned again, some of the things that our women are facing right now. We talk about also the fact that some of those benefits, the SNAP benefits, were rolled back. What kind of an impact is that having on these mothers and on these families?
That's a huge impact, absolutely. And one of the things that we learned from speaking to not only the parents in the community, but also the teachers in schools, is that when those benefits were in place during the pandemic, kids were coming to school well-fed. Kids were coming to school with appropriate clothing and coats and all of those things. And now that this food money is going to be drawn out, what is going to happen to every other element in that child's life?
And it's between $95 and $250. And somebody might say, $95, that's not too much if you have it, but if you don't have it, and with the way things are right now, when you again talk about inflation and the high cost of everything right now, from food to eggs to milk to gas, it has a big impact.
Yes. In our coaching sessions with moms, we hear about that and the rollback and the impact that it's already having here in Nevada. And they're concerned that's a huge difference, like you said, to not have $100 that you had been counting on. Yep. We've heard it from our moms.
And let's talk a little bit about one thing that Miss Ruby says in the segment, as well as in our panel discussion and in the film, is the fact that you do have to hold the powers that be accountable. Our legislators right now, the legislative session is in full swing. What are you looking at? It's Child's Week up at the legislature. So what are some of the key bills that you're really keeping an eye on?
Well, certainly we are looking across the board at anything that affects families, but we're also looking at things that you wouldn't necessarily think are family oriented, like economic justice, and of course environmental justice, making sure that our children are able to have a safe environment to grow up in and not fall ill based on the environment that they're around. So the Green Amendment is one that we are looking at very closely, and that's been enacted around the country, and it's being used to help impoverished communities and under-resourced communities gain some sense of cover, if you will. So yeah, I say cover. The Green Amendment, it's about trees and about making sure that communities are not polluted. So that's one of the ones that we're looking at. We're looking at Time for 20. We're looking at medical coverage for long-term subs. And many other ones.
Let's talk about Time for 20 a little bit.
Sure.
Explain that one to us.
So that is coming up through the teachers union, right? Time for 20 means a cap of 20 kids per classroom. Take some of that burden off of the teachers to be able to actually teach their craft. It is a 20% pay raise for salary teachers and a $20 minimum for hourly workers. So the nurse's aide who is there every single day making sure kids are safe and well cared for is not making a living wage. And we want her to be able to make that living wage. So those are some of the bills that we're watching.
And Maria, how about you?
Yeah. So we're just getting started, as you know, and we'll be looking at childcare related, education, K through 12 related, as well as higher education impacts, as well as housing related bills, affordable housing related policy. So
As well,
when
yeah.
the time is right.
Exactly. And let's go back to Storming Caesar's Palace, this wonderful documentary, because again, I think it opens our eyes to the fact that the problems still exist. And it also educates us on such an important part of our Nevada history. Because growing up here in Southern Nevada, I did not know about this.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's disheartening, and it made me really sad. But then I thought, we need to get the word out and what these women did. Talk about the impact these women and this movement and Miss Ruby Duncan had on your life.
Well, I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Duncan at Make It Work Nevada on my very first day. She was going to a panel with the Senator Cortez Masto, and she was amazing, and she still speaks in movement, right? She still speaks to the people and says, you got to get out there and vote. You have to be the one who makes that change. You cannot expect that. And so she speaks directly to the community, but at the same time, holding our legislators accountable and being able to walk into rooms and to hold those meetings and bring her entire community with her. That is the power of Dr. Duncan, and I am amazed every single time I get to sit down and talk with her. She's
Definitely
amazing.
commands attention. I love the fact she says I'm 90 and a half, and she's still doing this. And Senator Cortez Masto was at that screening.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, and let's talk
that's
about you are excited to meet her.
Yes, I'm very excited to meet her. Her name, Dr. Duncan's name, came up multiple times already since we've started to come into Las Vegas, as if to remind us that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And we may not have known their names before we got here, but now we do. And their work has been incredible.
And they said such a solid foundation that we can build upon, but there's still a lot of work to do. And something that also really struck me, and it broke my heart as well during the film, was the fact, again, the challenges these single mothers were facing back then. Some of them, they're still facing those issues today. A big one was, the stereotypes of the welfare, queen, that they're taking advantage of the system. Not the case.
Not at all. And that was a complete fabrication from the Reagan administration. So when we think of how long that narrative has lasted and how much it's grown, we have still a long way to go. But when it comes down to the work that Operation Life did, amazing. Being able to serve the families and the children, but also to put those closest to the problem in charge of solving that problem. That is an amazing thing that they did, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see something like that again.
And Miss Ruby Duncan did mention that during the Q&A and during our interview, that she would love to see that program come back to Southern Nevada, because it, again, to have a one-stop shop there for these families in need was beautiful.
It really was. And to that point, one of the things that the higher ups complained about was the education of these women. How could they have possibly done this? But that education is what they learned by keeping their families afloat. And that's how they learn to stretch a penny. That's how they learn to budget, and they learn to be accountable to one another. And that's really
And
important.
that's what they said, because when you watch the documentary, you'll see a lot of these women had an elementary school education. And to see what they accomplished is truly amazing.
Absolutely.
And let's talk a little bit about, we mentioned again the shame that, sometimes people feel when they have to go ask for these services. And that's another big component of your education.
Yeah, so we start all the moms in an empowerment and leadership course. And part of that is to demystify that shame and to really help them stand in their power. Because we believe the moms themselves, deserve a seat at the table. And so our empowerment and leadership is that first step towards that.
And let's talk about, we mentioned the SNAP benefits being rolled back. And just going back real quick to that, there was a study by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, and it said just rolling that back, that actually kept 4.2 million people above the poverty line in the last quarter of just 2021, and it reduced poverty by 10% and child poverty by 14%. When we hear those numbers, we think, what's the problem? Why? I mean, it's right there. It's telling you how it's helping, and then they're being rolled back. We talked about the expanded child tax credit. Keeping a close eye on that as well. That was also, stopped. What's next with that?
Well, unfortunately, what's next is that families are going to have to fight, right? Because nothing is ever given. Everything is fought for. So when we think about SNAP benefits and so many families being affected by that, it is time to rally. It is time to tell our elected officials that this is not acceptable. And there is always money out there. It's there, but whether it's allocated and put towards the needs of families is a completely different story. So what we need to do is take those who are being most affected and saying, you have the right to fight for this, and putting them in the rooms and using that leadership, using that knowledge to get them where they need to be to survive and to make great strides for their family.
And that's what Miss Ruby Duncan and these incredible women did back in the 60s and 70s.
Yes, the fight's not over.
The
It's
fight's
never
not over.
Right.
And again, the fact that you are empowering women of color. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other programs that you have, because you were just in Austin, correct?
We were just in Austin for our first in-person summit, which was 300 moms, and they were current moms and graduates, as well as our board and friends of JP. We launched our first Spark Tank, which 45 women put forward their business ideas. We were able to distribute $20,000 to early entrepreneurs, and we call them mompreneurs.
Oh, nice. I love that we are empowering women. Yes. And another great thing that I love that we saw at this screening is so many community partners. We talk again, it takes a village. It really, really does. We can't say that enough.
Absolutely.
Some of those organizations will be heading up to Carson City this week.
Absolutely. So Make It Work Nevada understands that it absolutely takes the whole community to make this work. So when we collaborate with our community partners, when it's Plan or the National Women's Organization or any other of our partners, we understand that it has to be an across-the-board championship, right? We have to bring everybody into the room because there is going to be a voice, there's going to be a story, there is going to be that one person who connects with the lawmakers to make them really see like, oh, I get that, I understand that now. And so when we bring all of our community partners together, we are wanting to make a broad reach, a great big safety net, so families don't fall through. And whether that is for paid sick leave, for childcare, any of those things, we count on our network and we count on our coalitions to support all of these fights as we support them in their realms as well.
Thank you both for
you
continuing
so much.
the good fight. And I know real quick, both of you always also looking for volunteers, right? We talked
Absolutely.
about such an important part of any organization.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Make It Work Nevada is always seeking volunteers, and we're talking kids all the way up to Dr. Ruby Duncan, right, to 90 and a half.
Yes.
So as we search for that, because the SNAP benefits aren't only affecting children, they are also affecting seniors. And so we need everybody from great grandma all the way down to baby.
Likewise.
Thank you both, and I can't wait for both of you to connect
Yeah,
and do great
thank
work here
you.
in Southern
Yeah, thank
Nevada.
you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you, Maria.
And thank you at home for joining us this week for Nevada Week. For any of the resources discussed, go to vegaspbs.org/Nevada Week. And reminder, you can watch Storming Caesar's Palace. You do not want to miss this on Monday, March 20th at 10 p.m. right here on Vegas PBS.